Decided to do something I don't do a lot of, and that's share a little bit about myself and my past. And I'm not really ashamed of my past, it's just not something I care to talk about. Uh, I'm a believer that your past is your past. You learn from it, you grow from it, but you don't live in it. And I unfortunately spent many years living in my past, trapped in my past, uh, due to the things that have happened to me in my childhood. But before we get to that, just quick a little bit about where I'm from. I am from a small town in Florida, in a place called Dixie County. It's filled with lots of wildlife and beautiful ocean and streams and rivers, and it's a beautiful place. Our family has lived there for generations. In fact, both sides of my family uh, helped establish and were there at the beginning of our town and our county. So that's really cool to know. We were very poor. Rarely did we have money to go and just buy food from the grocery store or anything else for that matter. We had to live off the land, and I'm not ashamed of that. I think more people need to learn how to live off the land a little bit more than they do today. And not everything has to be bought in a grocery store, but people are afraid to have to slaughter an animal. And I get it; it's a bit gross, but I think it's an important skill set is lost with many people today. But anyway, I really love my hometown community. I miss being there, but I have a lot of sad memories that are attached to living there. The biggest one has to do with me being abused. But there's others, like my parents getting divorced, not once, but numerous times. That was difficult. But being abused was probably the most difficult. I was physically, mentally, and sexually abused by numerous people, people that I should have been able to trust. And because of that, it really destroyed my sense of self worth. I can't tell you how often I heard how stupid I was, how ugly I was, how worthless I was. It went on and on and on and on. And if I wasn't being belittled, I was being hit, beaten with all kinds of objects, people's hands, people's feet, you know, and countless other objects. And if that wasn't happening, I was being sexually abused. And sometimes it would be all of those things done in the same day, maybe more than once. So that helped mold who I am today, as much as I hate to admit it. But the positive thing about it is, it made me want to be a better person. I grew up around a lot of hateful actions, hateful words being said, both at myself and at other people. And so when I decided to get out of that situation and I had to tell on people, and then it had a backlash on that. And I had a lot of family members turn against me, not believe me. Of course, now I believe almost all of them believe me, but I still struggled with that. And then I started having issues with dealing with all that happened to me because growing up, I honestly thought it was a normal thing to live with the yelling, the screaming, the beating, the sexual abuse. thought it was completely normal. Of course, when I got older and started being around other people and other families, I started realizing my family life wasn't normal. And because I was separated from my other siblings, my sisters went to live with my mother, and I had to live with my father. And of course, that also caused a little bit of damage. But anyway, as I got older, I decided I was not going to let my past own me anymore. I wasn't going to give my abusers power anymore. And I was going to stand up for myself. I wasn't going to be the meek little kid in the corner anymore. But of course, drugs and alcohol came into play because I was trying to drown out the noise in my head. So I self medicated. And then, when that didn't work, I tried to kill myself several times. And thank goodness that I wasn't successful. It's kind of odd now, looking back at it. Here I was trying to kill myself, and now I'm fighting to stay alive. That is the universe kicking me in my ass. But as I went through that process and did a lot of damage to myself physically and mentally, I realized I was reenacting things that was happening to me. I was getting in relationships that were really bad for me. And I knew they were bad, but it was just, I felt like that was what I deserved. That's what I should be. And then something snapped in my mind the last time I attempted and almost succeeded in taking my own life. And even though it was a struggle afterward, I fought. I fought every day to make sure that I no longer lived on that path. So I started spending time by myself, really thinking about what I wanted in life, how I wanted to be, who I wanted to be. And then I started making plans on how to do that. And I wasn't successful at everything I tried. But every day I fought. I forced myself to stop doing drugs, stop drinking, stop being in bad relationships. And again, I wasn't successful right away with all of them, but I worked very hard and I was determined, and I got clean, I got sober, and I got a clue. I really enjoyed spending time with myself. I enjoyed being who I was. I discovered so many things about myself. I had a lot of self discoveries, realizing that I had more capabilities than I even thought I had because I was in the same belief system from my past. So I eventually forgave my abusers. I never had the opportunity to speak to them in person, nor do I have a desire to. But I did forgive them, not because they deserve it, but it was because I felt like I had to. I felt deep down that it was necessary for me to forgive them so I can move on. Now, that doesn't mean I'm ever going to forget it, because you can't. It lives with you. It becomes part of who you are. When you are abused, that becomes part of who you are, no matter what. But you have to learn how to live with it and not let it control you. It's very easy to let negative things control your life. So I went to work at it, and then I decided, okay, what do I do next? Get a job and start working and try everything you can. And I literally tried everything. I never allowed myself to be fearful of trying something. Even though I was scared, every time I did, I didn't let my fear control me. So I took action and I tried different things, different jobs, everything you can imagine under the sun. I tried just so I can make my life better. And so I did, you know, road construction kind of work. I did restaurant work. I did retail work. And then I got into, you know, administrative type work. I didn't know anything about typing or computers when I first got my first job in the corporate world. I lied through my teeth, and I'm so grateful that they didn't catch on. But what I did is when I got that job, I immediately went to work and teaching myself every single thing I could. Any projects that I got, I would go home and I would figure out how I would accomplish it, and I'd go into work and I would make it happen. And nobody knew otherwise. And I did that for quite a few years. And I have fell into almost every job I have, which is just strange. But a lot of jobs I have fell into by chance, and Brian has told me that I have this ability to get myself wedged into any company I work at to make myself very valuable to the companies that I work for. And I would say that's true because I look for ways to improve things. I look for ways to make things better. And I always want to make myself look good, but I also want to make other people look good. And I think that's a key thing a lot of people forget. It's not all about you, it's about everyone. I've said this more than once and I'll keep saying it over and over again. We have to build each other up, not tear each other down. We have to help each other, guide each other, love each other. Life is too short, my friends. It really is. To let your past control you, to let your fears control you. And I, for one, am never going to let my fear control me. And I'll talk a little bit more about fear in a future video, how I deal with things when it comes to fear. But I hope this gives you a little bit of insight. If you want me to expand on any of them, I'm more than happy to, within reason. There's just some things I don't feel like needs to be out in public view. But for the most part, I am an open book and I'm willing to talk about anything. So I encourage you to send me your suggestions. I'd really like to have a live video chat in the near future. So I really hope that people will make suggestions so I can talk live with you folks. I'm sorry about the shakiness of the video today, but I had to make some changes to the setup and I'll get it corrected later on. But thank you all very much for listening to me talk on about various things.